Hello everyone, and today's recap is a Netflix series called The Alchemy of Souls. The series starts out in the night in a small town where a mysterious woman covered in cloth is walking on the streets. She meets a poor mom and a child that are very hungry and offers them food. While the two poor souls celebrate having met this sweet lady that fed them, she loosens her son from his cage. The son had used a form of magic called the Alchemy of Souls, which made him a soul shifter. This is how the Alchemy of Souls works. You get a stone, which can also take any form, that is to say, water, wind, or fire. You then use it to jump into another person's body. But your body has a deadline. As time passes, you run out of energy, so you need a new body or to feed on another person as a form of energy. If you can do this a lot of times, you are basically immortal. This is how soul shifters survive. The son's body was desiccating. He needed to feed on other people's energy / souls to survive. But then a mysterious man shows up and puts an end to the chaos, killing the soul shifter. This mysterious man is the Gwangju of the kingdom. The Gwangju is the king's advisor, who also is a mage or sorcerer. Mages were very popular at this time. They are the sorcerers that kind of protected the kingdom. Later we see that the king summons the Gwangju and asks him to switch bodies with him because he had heard of the Alchemy of Souls. Since the king was old and dying and he wanted an heir to the throne, he could just borrow another body and give birth to an heir. The Gwangju doesn't completely agree, but is forced to let his king borrow his body. The king sleeps with the Gwangju's wife, impregnates her, and makes it clear to the Gwangju that the son his wife was to bear was to be the prince of the kingdom. The Gwangju is of course very angry, so when the kid is born on the night of the king's star, the night when the next king is prophesied to be born, he blocks his flow of energy so he never will be able to practice any sorcery. He says that this was his way of protecting the child, since the kingdom had already gotten a new king, the king's brother. Years later, on the other side of the world, a very talented young female warrior is fighting the greatest mages of the kingdom. Her name is Natsu, and she is a wanted assassin. She loses the battle but manages to escape and uses the Alchemy of Souls to shift into another body. The owner of her new body is an orphaned blind girl named Mu-Deok. She realizes that this girl is not actually blind and throws the blindfold away, not knowing that this would put more targets on her. While on the run, she meets a spoiled, talkative, and talented young master from a mage sect called Song-Rim. This young master had trouble learning any skills, since his gates of energy had been blocked by his father, the Gwangju, who later had abandoned him, hoping that he would never become a mage or ever need to use his skills. The moment this young master sees her, she starts to suspect that she is the warrior, Natsu, that everybody is looking for. He doesn't say anything to anyone, as he sees this as his chance to have a new master, one who could help him get better with his sorcery skills. Everyone else had failed at being his master since he had no flow of energy, so he was deemed untalented. Mu-Deok is still trying to run, but she has no sorcery skills now. She is completely unaware of how society works, but since she isn't blind anymore, she can be captured and sold as a maid. That's exactly what happens. She meets the young master again, Jae-Wook. He's still very spoiled and basically tortures her with lots of work, while all she can think of is how to get her sword back and get revenge. After a while, Jae-Wook confesses that he knows that Natsu is hiding inside the bodies of the maid. He asks her to become his master and teach him the sorcery, but Natsu doesn't want to get involved in anyone's life, so she declines the offer. The whole community is still trying to find Natsu, but Jae-Wook keeps covering for her and saving her, so she agrees to coach him until she could leave. Among the young masters of this new palace she works at is an intelligent, dashing Seung-Ho, who was Natsu's teenage love. He does not recognize her in this new body. Instead, he believes that she's out there somewhere. Natsu, now Mu-Deok, who has now agreed to become Jae-Wook's maid or master while keeping a low profile, figures that there is no hope for this man until his gate of energy is opened. She tries killing him to keep her secret, but then finds another way to help him since he had helped her. She does warn him that everything she would do would be very brutal, so the first thing she does is poison him. While the poison is killing him, the leaders of the mages get scared and open his gates of energy to try to save him. With his gates of energy opened, Jang-Wook is now ready to train as a mage. Naxu starts training him secretly and really pushes him to the edge to make him a better fighter or sorcerer. Jang-Wook is a genius and learns fast. He continues to learn skills in weeks that take others to master in years. In an attempt to make him better, Mu-Deok, Naxu, pushes him into a fight with the crown prince, but he runs away in fright to another town where he meets Master Lee, a very talented master. He teaches him to use a skill called Shisu. This is a skill that takes years, 12, 30 years to learn, and he masters it in a couple of hours. The two other young masters of the mages come out to the town where Jang-Wook is hiding to find him. Things are now very serious, and he has to come back to fight the crown prince, or he would lose any rights to succeed his father as a son. Even though he was confused by who his father could be, he came back to fight because he wanted to be the father's son, the Gwangju's son. He fights, and fortunately, he wins using a trick Naxu had taught him. He is finally accepted to start training as a mage of Songrim. At this point, Naxu's former love, Siu-Yu, had begun to notice some stuff about his maid, and he finally figures that she is Naxu. Of course, he pretends not to know. The newest mage, Jang-Wook, who had now just been accepted, was very pleased, but the leader didn't want him to train. So they gave him some bullish hard tasks, hoping he would never solve them. Instead, he solves them one by one, exceeding their expectations. It was clear that he was talented, but this made people afraid of him. What could a man do with this kind of power? What they weren't aware of was, he had found himself a new master, who was helping him progress. Mu-Deok. First, we hear Naxu's story. Naxu's family had been killed by her father, who had used the alchemy of souls and went mad. Left behind was a vulnerable young girl who had no one to rely on, and someone took advantage of that. She was fed a story that her family had been killed by the mages of Songrim and that she needed to take revenge. This is how the vengeful assassin was born. When Jang-Wook heard this story, he knew he wanted to protect her. The protagonists of this story had acquired the stone that possessed the power of alchemy of souls. They were now ready to bring more chaos into the kingdom. The leader of this cult, the queen, was a soul shifter who was previously a shaman called Choi. She was now in a very powerful position as the queen, while the real one was locked up in a dungeon somewhere. Then Mu-Deok's story. Mu-Deok had been living as a blind girl in a small village called Seri, until her body was taken over by Naxu. Mu-Deok is the daughter of a prominent family in the kingdom, also the future high priestess. But no one knows this yet, because she got lost as a child and had been declared dead. The antagonist, to win the current priestess's favor, Mu-Deok's mom, had found a random blind girl who was now impersonating her as the family's long-lost daughter. Although Mu-Deok was blind, she had the ability to sense energy and do a lot of extraordinary things. This might have been the reason why she was blind. Every time Naxu used Mu-Deok's powers, her eyes hurt so much that she couldn't see. The antagonist managed to manipulate the king and bring the ice stone back into the world, using the king's insecurities. They told him of a child that had been born on the night of the king's star, who was going to take over the throne. The whole kingdom went into chaos. Every sect that had mages had now prepared to fight because every one of them wanted the power of the ice stone. Jang-Wook saves the day by distracting them for a while, claiming that their founder had written his intentions in a book somewhere, and they had to find it. In the meantime, the king asks the mages to demonstrate the power of this mysterious stone. He orders them to kill someone and bring them back to life. He chooses Mu-Deok as the offer. She gladly accepts, seeing this as an opportunity to steal the stone and serve herself, because her body has a deadline too. Her mom, Mu-Deok's mom, who is also the priestess, is assigned the task of killing her. She starts choking her, Memories soar up and Mu-Deok calls her mom. At the same time, the stone transforms into winds as the priestess's fake daughter, who was standing right beside her, tries to destroy it. It forms a boundary and traps the fake daughter, some mages, and Mu-Deok in a mansion. She sees her chance to steal the stone and save herself and leave. She doesn't take the chance though. She stays making excuses every time she gets the chance to run, saying he's staying to save her student, Jae-Wook. In the end, she does save her student. The whole place comes into chaos when a soul shifter is on the loose in the mansion, killing mages, so they decide to break the barrier of the stone. They make up a plan where Jae-Wook uses In-Soo to attack the barrier. The consequences are that Jae-Wook loses all of his powers. He makes a deal with the Crown Prince that if it works, they would let the Crown Prince take credit for saving everyone. On the outside, a lot had been going on. The queen had been found and the shaman was now busted. The king looked so confused. The Gwangju had come back to atone for his sins, and he dies in front of everyone. This is where we find out that the Gwangju had started all of this. He had gone to the priestess and taken the stone from her, and this was the beginning of all the chaos. The assistant Gwangju, who was working with the shaman, goes into hiding until he figures out that Naksu is actually Mu-Deok. Then he uses the magic of Shaman Shoy to control her, uses her to kill a ton of people, including Ook, and then sends her to a grave to die. Ook is cremated. Oh wait, he tried to, and then he bursts into flames and then comes out walking, alive. And then we see some women pulling up the body of Mu-Deok from water.